people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
De la noche, Stephanie Piñeiro.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Publicized Turkey Al-Sheikh clapped at you or whatever, but it's you, Gervonta Davis, and Canelo. And Gervonta, he said something interesting. He's like, you know, guys like me and Canelo, we kind of don't have to kiss the ring because we can sell. Gervonta sells here, Canelo sells here, and in Mexico you sell in Australia. Is there truth to that a little bit too? Or?
Yeah, to a certain extent, yeah. Yeah, there is. We don't have to, again, sell our soul, as they say, for money.
That's quite the way to put it.
And fighting in Saudi Arabia, in a way, takes you away from your fans. To develop a base of boxing fans, they need to be there to see it, and they're hooked forever. Yeah, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, look, I'd love to fight in Saudi Arabia. I think it's an emerging country, first of all. But for me, as a young kid and as a boxing lover, America's where it's at. And I grew up watching big fights, and for me, it was always a dream of mine to be fighting here, to be fighting out of here, and to be experiencing it all. And that for me is number one.
Interesting insights from Tim Tszyu ahead of his world title bid to become a two-time junior middleweight champion against unbeaten Bakram Murtazaliev. Insights into why is he fighting in America when he has a bubbling audience?
Why here?
In Australia, why come here?
Why?
And what about Saudi? What about potentially fighting in Saudi and his row, his tiff with Turkey Al-Sheikh? What about that?
What about it?
I heard one member of the media, and I believe that was Gail. I recognize her voice.
I know who you are!
Talk about fighting in Saudi in the negative. That fighting in that region of the world would take Tim Tszyu away from his fans when fighting in America does that.
Same thing.
I'm a big fan of Tim Tszyu, by the way, but he does not have the audience here that he has in Australia. So how is fighting in America any better than fighting in Saudi when Saudi will provide you with more money?
Well, Tim said he's not worried about the money. He doesn't want to sell his soul.
And we'll get to that. But addressing Gail's comment that fighting in Saudi somehow takes Tim away from his fans, fighting here does the same thing. I heard her say that. I just got the impression that there's a bit of a bias there. That you don't mind a guy coming to America, but there's something wrong with going to Saudi. Otherwise, she would have made that observation herself. It's almost like you want everything to happen in America. It has to happen in America. That is not exactly a bubbling market for boxing right now, not unless you're Canelo.
The Americans really need to get over themselves.
As far as Tim, fighting in Saudi, fighting in America, now we understand why it's felt like he has a fixation. He wants to fight here.
Even though it's counterintuitive. I mean, I think it is.
What's the point in fighting in Minneapolis at the Armory when you could have fought in front of more people in your own country? What was the point in coming here for somebody like Sebastian Fundora, who doesn't even draw? Just to lose your title.
In a freak accident.
Why do it? Now we understand. For Tim, it's personal. He is more or less following in his father's footsteps, and it's a childhood goal to fight in this country, to fight in front of this audience. The problem is, this is not your father's era of boxing. This is not the mecca for the sport that it used to be.
It's not.
In any event, this being a childhood goal of his, that's why he's sticking to it. But for how long? You talk about the Bakram Murtazaliev fight. I think Tim is going to win that fight. I do.
He says he doesn't have to sell his soul.
I think that's a bit extreme to suggest that the guys and gals that are fighting in Saudi, are they selling their souls?
Come on.
It's prize fighting, baby. You better grow up. You go where the money is. And if the money's in Saudi, that's where you go. And those fights that are happening in Saudi, few of them we would have never got if it wasn't for the Saudis. Like this weekend's fight, Beterbiev versus Bivol, who circled each other for years.
I don't need the whole backstory. We've been through it.
After Tim beats Bakram Murtazaliev, and I think he's going to, he might end up going to Saudi. He might.
Or at minimum, end up dealing with them.
Why?
Rumors abound. There are rumors swirling that Sebastian Fundora may be in negotiations to fight Terence Crawford next. That the Spence fight is a no-go, and he might fight Terence. If that's true, and they fight, and Terence wins, who's behind Terence?
Turkey, the Saudis.
Initially, I thought that after the Bakram Murtazaliev fight, what Tim Tszyu might move to do is have a rematch with Sebastian, provided that Sebastian is still champion.
Things have changed. The situation may have changed to where if Sebastian fights Terence and Terence wins and takes his 2 alphabet titles,
Yes?
means Terence would be in possession of 3 of the 4. 3 of the 4 major titles. The last one to collect would be Tim Tszyu's title, his IBF title, if he beats Bakram. That a fight with Terence and Tim in that scenario would be for undisputed, and I'm fairly confident that Turkey Al Sheikh would get behind that. You can do it in Saudi, or you could do it in America, like Terence's last fight, but one way or another, to do it, Tim would be dealing with the Saudis. That door ain't closed. Situation like that wouldn't leave Tim Tszyu with very many options, and whatever options are out there would pale in comparison with fighting Terence Crawford for the undisputed.
For huge money.
Tim and his team never actually closed the door to working with the Saudis, so it is a distinct possibility for the not-so-distant future in the coming year that if Tim takes care of business with Bakram and all these rumors about Terence and Sebastian come into fruition,
We get Tim versus Terence.
just something to think about. There is a lot to think about this week, this upcoming weekend's mega match, and what might happen beyond that.
Beyond the Beterbiev versus Bivol fight that we've been waiting for years, couple of stories, couple of guys that got a taste of Artur Beterbiev's power firsthand, and what they had to say about him, and based on that, what are Dmitry Bivol's chances of being able to deal with that power?
Shift the focus.
I'll tell you a story. When I first sparred with Arthur, my pops, he's my boxing father.
Nah, not against Arthur. Not from what I know of him, what I heard about dudes that been in there with him. I heard stories that I never heard about. Damn near nobody, except for prime Mike Tyson.
But yo, he told me, now, all my years of boxing, I sparred with Cal Frock, Chad Dawson, Lucian Butte, Troy Ross, like real champions.
You fought Kovalev.
I fought Kovalev.
Yeah.
And when he saw him, he said, they called me to go spar with him. He said, nah, you don't need that. We don't need that. You know what I'm saying? We don't need that. And that kind of caught me off guard because I'm like, what?
Could you give us some of those stories, man? Like, what's one of the
I know
craziest
guys
stories you
that
heard
said
about?
that he is so hard he can't even really spar a whole full 3-minute round in camp. He got to cut it in half.
We don't need that. What you say? They paying though. He like, I know, but we don't need that. We can. You know what I'm saying, you the best. You know what I'm saying, we gonna train with somebody else. I'm like, I said, nah.
And he got to wear huge gloves. And then he paying guys a lot of money. They still don't show up. They go back home. Like he hurting guys in camp with the big sparring gloves. And this is what I heard from people that been in there with him. They said that his power is different. Like,
I said, so he that strong? He said, well, he tough. I'm like, what you mean tough? He's like really tough. I'm like, what's really tough? He said, he's like super tough. I'm like, I'm going to spar with him. He said, okay, just remember, I told you don't.
He caught me with the accurate shot right on my ear, right behind it, and
So I got to get to Montreal. Now Mike Ramsey is my guy. Like they like family to me.
Yeah, good guy.
I get out there, I see him. I'm like, oh, he don't look that big. You know what I'm saying? Like, he got a big head, but he don't look that big. You know what I'm saying? I ain't worried about that. So when we get in the ring, I asked Mark. I said, Mark, how you want me to, what you want me to do? Mark said, just do your best. I said, what? I said, in my head, I'm like, oh, now I'm f***ing him up. Now I'm f***ing him up. This is the second person that know me well telling me to do my best. And then one told me don't spar with him. I said, man, I'm sparring. All right, I'm about to show both of them. Bell ring. Ding dong, the bell ring. I'm like, all right, cool. So I hit it with my pump fake. hit him with the pump fake, then threw a jab, and he came over it. Yo, it felt like, you ever get on an airplane and you pulling off, and you like, it felt like when he hit me, it felt like I was on an airplane pulling off. Like, I felt like I was like.
Honestly, I didn't even feel it. My legs just went down and never came back. So, I mean, I guess he does got pretty good power.
Yeah.
Like I was descending into heaven. I'm like, I'm about to meet the Lord.
Bone crushing type power.
Stop.
Yes, I'm about to meet the Lord. Oh, I'm not. I'm still on the ground. Like, and Mark was like, you okay? And I was like,
I tell people, he hit me in my hip so hard, I felt it in my foot for a week.
I was trying to see if I was still alive. I'm like, I can feel myself, but maybe I'm in heaven. Maybe I don't. Like I've never been hit that hard since I've been born. Like his punches are. To say he hit hard is like an understatement. It's like a.
You understand? The guy is an incredibly strong puncher. You know, it's different. It's like nothing I had ever felt before.
I'm lying to you. If I say I'm about to fight Arthur, you'll be careful. He hit hard. I feel like I'm lying to you because it's like when you get hit, you're like, nah, that's not just hitting hard. That's like
unnatural strength. I mean, it's crazy. If I spar with him, trust me, I know.
If he's the strongest guy you ever fought before? Boy, you ever sparred before? Like the guy with the most puncher probably you ever sparred before?
The strongest he's the strongest guy I've ever been there with, yeah.
Nah. Listen, look how big Joe Smith is. As soon as he, boom! Look at Alexander Volsnik. He just said, I can't take it no more.
Just don't let him punch you.
And they had him winning the fight.
He did take a break for like 2 years too after.
And you heard what he said after the fight?
Run away, because it's not a good idea to stay near the ropes against him.
He said, I stayed up till I felt like I was about to die. He retired. And people laughed, but I understood what he felt. He getting hit with 10s. I'm getting hit with 18s on. He getting hit with 10s on. I'm getting hit with 18s. And I'm like, yo.
Hindsight is a great thing. So looking back on your fight with Beterbiev, what advice would you give to Bivol to go in against him?
Just don't let him punch you and, work your ass hard. Run away, because it's not a good idea to stay near the ropes against him.
How the hell is Dmitry Bivol supposed to contend with something like that? It doesn't sound like they're talking about a boxer. It sounds like they're talking about a goddamn Sasquatch.
Boogity, man.
Veteran boxing scribe Ade Oladipo said on his own social media, I asked Artur Beterbiev today about going to cruiserweight, and he said yes, he will. You know what that means, right?
A Jayo Pataya fight.
That opens the door to that possibility because Artur Beterbiev, having done what he's already done and what he might do in the light heavyweight division this weekend, there's not going to be a lot left to keep him there. So what does he do?
Move up.
There's also that last bit about David Benavidez getting the winner of the fight. So let's say Artur Beterbiev, he's a winner of the fight. He knocks Dmitry Bivol out. He does to him what he's done to everybody else under the hot lights and in a gym setting, sparring sessions, you name it. He brutalizes guys. If he brutalizes Dmitry,
David's gonna fight this guy.
Lonnie B had this and that to say about that. The potentiality of a Benavidez versus Beterbiev fight. This is what he had to say.
So David Benavidez, listen, I like David, but let's come back down to reality. David looks good against small guys. He fight Arthur, he's gonna get knocked out. It won't go past 3. Because I'm gonna tell you why. Because David's not used to fighting anybody who hit that hard and that big and physically an animal. David is not physically strong at all. Arthur, he gonna have to deal with Arthur being physically strong.
What? You saying David's not strong?
He's not physically strong. When I spar, he's not physically strong. Like, and David don't punch hard. He just put a lot of punches together. He overwhelmed me.
Those of you that have been following this channel will know that in spite of what's being put out there by the media and whatever David Benavidez is telling them, I don't think for a second he's going to fight the winner of that fight, especially if the winner of that fight is Artur Beterbiev. And now that we know that Artur might have plans of moving up,
right?
David might really dodge a bullet here. My official pick is Dmitry Bivol, tenuously. I'm going with Dmitry Bivol to win the fight, perhaps by way of a points decision, but I'm just entertaining a scenario where I'm wrong. Dmitry doesn't win. Artur wins.
Artur.
Turkey's gonna be looking to make that fight between David Benavidez and Artur Beterbiev. How the hell does David deal with this guy? I should say, how does he get out of it? Because I don't actually think he wants the winner of that fight, least of all if it's Artur.
Impromptu injury.
That's what I think. David Benavidez is set to return to action in either December or January, and I expect that immediately after the fight...
We're talking about in a scenario where Artur wins this weekend.
Immediately after David's fight, whenever that is, whether it's December or January, whoever he fights, whether it's Jesse Hart or David Morrell, whatever,
right?
He's gonna get injured. He's gonna get injured like Sebastian Fundora was quote-unquote injured. You remember that? Immediately after the Tszyu fight, what did they say? They say the injuries he sustained in the fight would see him sit out for most of the year. Just for Sebastian to spill the beans and say he could have came back much sooner. The injuries he suffered, they weren't even that bad.
He was medically cleared to return 2 months after the Tszyu fight, which was much sooner than what they initially said.
It seems to me that somebody on his side exaggerated about the severity of his injuries after the fight. Just so happens that Sebastian and David are both with Samson Lukowicz. So if Artur wins this weekend, and David does whatever he does whenever he does it sometime afterwards, I expect that after that, to avoid Artur, he'll be injured. He'll be on the bench for a while.
Be very bad optics if you have a shot at Undisputed, a direct path to it, and you skip it. You forego it to keep doing interviews about Canelo.
Bad optics, man. You can't just outright duck the guy. You need a valid reason, an excuse.
I'm injured.
With nothing left to do in the light heavyweight division, in that scenario, that's when Artur maybe decides he's gonna move up. Maybe Turkey makes a fight between him and Jayo Pataya. Something else. Something other than David. Because if I'm sure of one thing, David ain't fighting that guy. Lonnie B said what I've been telling you here on the channel for weeks, months, maybe even a few years now. 1 or 2. David Benavidez is not a hard puncher, and he isn't used to fighting hard punchers, really hard punchers, let alone the hardest puncher in the light heavyweight division today, and perhaps one of the hardest punchers the division has ever seen.
David doesn't want those problems.
Not when he can keep doing the rounds on social media and all the podcasts name-dropping Canelo to distract people from the Beterbiev fight.
That should be his focus. Why do you think it isn't?
This whole time I've been telling you, going up there and fighting Vajdik for an interim title was all about getting in position to pick up a vacant title, not challenge a champion for theirs.
If Artur wins, David will become mysteriously injured, wait for him to move up, then come back in time to be elevated to full WBC champion. That's the play. That's what they're up to.
And they're gonna do the same thing with Morrell.
Beterbiev washes them both.
Insights into the future. If Artur Beterbiev proves me wrong, and he wins this weekend, that's what I expect.